Perfect. Oh, I need to zoom. Just a little. Okay. Hey patrons, it's me, Lee. And I decided on a video for this month. Can you believe that? So since I feel like a lot of my patrons are artists who are just starting their shops or just trying to figure out what they're doing with their art or trying to get a following somewhere, I decided to do a little story time chatty video about how I started my shop, how I started my Instagram, and kind of how the whole timeline of how that worked. Because when I started, all I wanted to know was how people got where they were. Because when you see people who are very established online, you stare at their shop and at their Instagram and you're like, how did they do that? How did you do that? And they're like, I don't even know how to answer that question. So I'm just gonna give you the long version. It's going to be very chatty. It's going to be hardly anything to look at. So if you wanna not look at me and do something else and just listen to my long story, please do so. So to give you background before I started my shop, I had just quit art school for the third time. I moved in with my parents who were really close to my last art school I tried, and I had no plans of starting an online shop, but I knew I wanted to do something with art and I knew I didn't want to go back to school. I was applying to jobs at summer art camps or like any kid teaching art stuff because I love doing that. Went to a few interviews and I was like, you know what, I'm gonna start Etsy on the side and do pet portraits and home portraits because why not? I could have a little side thing and still do art for myself kind of, but like more of a deadline type art thing. And I was like, cool, this will be awesome. So I looked on Etsy, I figured out what prices people were selling them for, and I made a few examples of my friends' cats and homes, and I listed them for really cheap. Initially, I wanted to do really quick watercolors and just get them out really fast and sell them for a cheap price because I felt like people weren't really offering that on Etsy. And I started there because I knew people were looking for pet portraits and home portraits. There was already a market for that. I was just falling into a market that was already there. I did not have any sort of following at this point. I didn't have a YouTube channel. I didn't have anything. I just listed some stuff on Etsy as some random person. And then also my price point, I started them low. First because I wanted to do the quick whatever ones that would take me just a little bit of time and I could whip them out really fast. Having my commissions at a really low price starting out made me feel a lot more comfortable offering them to people because I wasn't sure what I was doing. I didn't know what I was offering. I didn't know what my style was like. I couldn't guarantee anything. I didn't know how to ship anything. I didn't know how to do anything. So I started off really low just to make myself more comfortable. Not that I thought my art wasn't worth it. It was just a comfort thing for me. I felt like that made me feel better about just starting out. And it wasn't supposed to be a huge money maker. So I started it for fun. I didn't know if I was gonna get any orders. So I started that in January of 2016, 15? I don't know. But I started it a few years ago. And orders started to come in. I was getting used to I was kind of building a style. I was figuring out how the process worked, how long it would take me, what kind of work I needed to put into each commission, how to communicate with customers, how to ship stuff. So it was very gradual and orders started to come in more and more and my prices raised with the demand and with how much time I was putting into them, I kind of left the quick idea to the side and went more for an established painting. So my prices increased and within like 2 months I was able to live off just my Etsy and I never got another job. At this point I wasn't paying rent, so it wasn't like I needed to make a ton of money, I just needed to be able to support myself. So I was able to live off my Etsy and save money up to move out of my parents for in a couple months, which was awesome. So I did just solely commissions on my Etsy for probably a year or more than that. I moved out of my parents, I moved to Cincinnati, and in Cincinnati I decided that I wanted to build more on my own art. I felt like I was losing myself in commissions, which I was. I mean, that's all the art I was making, besides like every now and then I would sketch and like make something and have no idea what I was doing, and I was like, what is this? This isn't a commission, no one's telling me what to do. So that's when I decided to start my 365 project, where I was drawing every day for a year and posting it on Instagram. It was just like me trying to kickstart myself into making my own art and maybe transitioning from commissions to like an online store, because I followed so many awesome artists that were doing that on Instagram, and I was like, I want to do that. I'm just gonna do something. See, like, I wanted to establish myself as an artist for me. Like, just, how am I gonna say this? I wanted to feel confident in what I was making and have some sort of idea. I don't know, you know, like, I guess I could say I wanted an art style or like a voice besides my commissions. So I started my 365 project, and that's kind of when my following started to build. I think people were interested in me drawing and seeing what I was doing every day, and just a constant flow of content coming from me must have been enticing. I don't know. I was working on how to take Instagram photos at this point and make a consistent feed. I was teaching myself how to just be better at social media too while I was doing this project. So it was kind of a hand-in-hand type deal. My following started to grow with that, and I started my YouTube channel, which I thought nothing about. My old roommate James was like, you need to start a YouTube channel just to do it. And I was like, all right, fine. So I did. And that kind of took off once I started posting some sketchbook tours. People were interested in those. So that helped my following grow. And by this point, people were kind of asking me for prints and asking me for products. And I was like, oh, well, if you're asking for it, I'll do it. So I did not start selling any products before people started asking for them. I invested in a scanner and a printer to make prints, and I started selling them really cheap so I could figure out what I was doing, like scanning and editing and printing, and what materials were best for me. That was really hard to figure out. If you're looking for a video to help you, Jacqueline De Leon's helps me. It's just really straightforward, and I was like, okay, I think I'm doing this right. I don't think there's a right way to make prints. It's just whatever works for you. It just like sucks to figure out, but anyways. So at this point I was doing commissions and prints. Eventually I added stickers to my shop. I started selling some original art from my 365. I mean, this was like a huge growth point for me. I was constantly making art. I was gaining following. People were more interested in my art, more interested in me from YouTube. And I started my Patreon account, which is awesome. Hey guys, it's me, you, and me, or here. What's up? What else? What else happened? I added pins to my shop. Somewhere after I started my Patreon account, I closed my commissions. I'm not sure when, but I officially closed them, and I was living off of my shop, my YouTube channel, and my Patreon account, which is pretty much where I am at right now. And then eventually I switched from Etsy to Squarespace because they increased some prices. I wanted some more freedom with my design. I wanted to have a better website than just being like, oh, look at this Etsy, everyone else's Etsy looks like this. I wanted to be able to create a more of a look and like a feel to my website. So I switched to Squarespace, and yeah, that's kind of how I got here in a quick, condensed, as a kind of condensed way. So if you have any more questions about what you're doing, what I did, let me know in the comments and I will do my best to answer them. I feel like a lot of people ask how I started my shop or how I ordered things or how I started doing anything, and it's just kind of hard to answer. So hopefully this kind of made it a little clearer in some sort of way. Thank you for watching, thank you for your support and being my patron. You're the best. And that's it. Thank you for listening to my chatty, long video. Bye, see ya. Bye. See ya. Bye.